Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another NAPLAN writing preparation lesson with Kristen. So hopefully at this stage, you have already watched lesson 1, which is about narrative writing, and you have already started on planning the topic. Try to write around 150 or 250 words within 40 minutes. And you have an idea how long do you need for planning, your actual writing, and editing. Now we're on the second part of our narrative writing, which is talking about persuasive writing. It's another very important genre. We need to know how to write it. So today's lesson, the structure is pretty much the same as the last time. So we're gonna look at a very good example, and through that example, we're gonna use our checklist to learn how does this person construct this text and what are the language features in this writing and what can we learn from that example. And then we're gonna show you the marking rubric which the marker is going to use to mark your writing in the actual exam. And then we're going to show you another student written example. And to use that checklist we have talked about previously and apply to this new writing to see if you can actually observe and find out the different key points in that structure. And our goal is for you to remember this checklist in your mind and take it with you in the exam. I mean, take it with you is to take it over here, not take the actual thing with you in the exam. And at the end, we're gonna look at NAPLAN previous question together and try to think about how can we plan that persuasive writing. And your work will be after today's lesson to plan it yourself and write actual piece at the end. So see if how's everything going with that persuasive writing. So now I'm going to share my screen. This is the material we are going to use for today's lesson. So same, we are going to use a year 5 persuasive sample to show you. So for both year 3 and year 5 student, I believe you're gonna benefit from this great example. So I will give you some minute to try to read through the whole story. And same as last time, we're gonna use this checklist to go through this example in more detail. So when you read it, you can first think about the structure parts of this writing. For example, the introduction, serious argument, topic sentence, does it have a paragraph, and does it have a conclusion? So you can also think about how would you write this story if you are the person who is going to write it. Actually, this question is at the very end of our learning material. It's also our homework we ask you to practice. So the topic is keeping animals in cages is cruel. So do you think it's cruel or do you think it's not cruel? Which opinion do you stand for? Or would you support both sides? So you can think about that for a while. Pause there, and then you can go and read our example to see how does other students will actually write about this topic. So you probably think about our key points. For a while, you don't need to find everything, for example, for verb, modal, verbs, or adverbs. You don't have to find all of them because that's just going to take you too much time. As long as you find some of them, that's enough. So let's go through this checklist together. For introduction, do we have a clear introduction in this writing? So you can see the first paragraph. Do you feel the difference between the normal persuasive writing you read from this one? It's a little bit different, right? The first paragraph more like a narrative writing. It's a description of an event. So it's actually gave us an image of in the zoo how does a lion actually eat their food, isn't it? It just gave us an image like that. And at the end, the writer asked a question. So this is a lion in captivity. Is this cruel? And in the second paragraph, what is that? What do you think is that? There is just 2 sentences, right? And in the second sentence, it says, I think that it is cruel to keep animals in cages, but no cruel to keep them in zoos. So that you will find this part actually is the opinion, isn't it? So I will underline it. If you like, you can also underline it on your material. So at the end of the class, you will see you have made some clear notes as we go through the checklist, not just tick the checklist. Otherwise, there's no notes leave on your learning material. And once you are doing your homework or preparing for your exam, you have nothing to take away, isn't it? So I think it would be a good idea to just put some notes around this writing in the blank place where you can fill in. Yeah. So we find actually the opinion, which is the main opinion, right? So it means this is still the introduction part. It's just this person break it into 2 paragraphs. And the first paragraph is actually more looks like a narrative to give us a little bit story about how do people feed lions in zoo. And second point is, do we have series of arguments that gives reason for your point of view? So we need to find arguments, right? A good and clear persuasive writing cannot be good without arguments, and not only one. We need series so that your opinion will be convincing, isn't it? So let's look at the following paragraph. For example, this one, the third one. So wild animals in zoos actually have a pretty good life. That sounds like an argument, isn't it? So after this sentence, what's behind it is explanation of why it is the case and the reasoning of why this is the case, isn't it? For example, they're safe from hunters, great habitats, and best quality by the zookeepers, entertaining toys. So there are so many examples why they're living a good life. How about the next paragraph? What is that about? Let's look at the first sentence. But then the animals are not experiencing what it's really like to be in the wild. You may argue, blah, blah, blah. So this sentence actually is the second argument, isn't it? Says animals are not experiencing what's really like to be in the wild. It's almost saying keeping animals in cages is cruel. They are not happy in the cages. All right, then what about our next point? So we can tick on that one. Series of argument, yes. Separate paragraph for each argument. Do we have it in different paragraph? Yes, this is one paragraph and this is another one. Yes, we do have different arguments in different paragraphs. A clear topic sentence in each paragraph. So just now what Kristen underlined is called topic sentence. What's the function of topic sentence? It's just give an overview of what this paragraph is going to talk about. So once reader read this one, they know what to expect in the following, right? So topic sentence, yes. How about next one? A conclusion that repeats the opinion and refer back briefly to the argument. So it means our conclusion. Does it also talk about our opinion, referring back? If you look at it closely, there is definitely yes, right? You refer back to the opinion that it's cruel to keep animals in cages. So it says, overall, animals do believe in wild. So it more lean towards the wild side, not prefer animals to be in cages. And it's also extremely great that there are animal reserves all over the world to help. Animals are a great gift to the world. So we pay attention to the latter part. So they are talking all about it's cool to keep animals in cages, but no cool to keep animals in zoo. Right, so another take for conclusion. Now we figure out the overall structure. We zoom out a little bit and have a bigger picture of what this text is about. It's have very clear structure, isn't it? So we know that what the author's opinion is, and it say out the argument in separate paragraph, and then in conclusion, it summarize its argument or restate its opinion. So it's very logical. Now, if we zoom in and look at more language details into this writing, what can we find? That's the following point we are going to discover. So the first one is, do we have correct verb tense? So think about for persuasive writing, what tense should we use? Should we use past tense or present tense? You can see for narrative, we might use past tense, that's fine. But for persuasive writing, usually we use present tense. So everything here, is it in present tense? Yes, it is, right? If you pay attention to the verb here. So that's in the present tense. The next one is modal verbs. You might ask, what are modal verbs? Modal verbs are modalities such as must, can, may, might, should, shall, something like that. They are all called modal verbs. Modal verbs are very, very useful, especially in persuasive writing. Let's look at this person. Does he have modal verbs used? Actually, in the conclusion part, I will highlight it in, how about in blue? We should do all we can. And should and can, right? To keep them safe and happy. So that's just an example. Maybe you can find more if you like. So at least we have one. Next one is adverbs. Adverb is used to modify adjective or verbs. So let's see whether we can find some. I will use the color yellow to highlight it in this text. And you can pause here and find it yourself. Later on, you're gonna check with me. Now, we're back, and in the first paragraph, actually, slowly is one great example. And we have lightly leap off the ground. Another one is, if you can see over here, pretty good life asset. Adverb is used to modify adjective. How good? Pretty good, right? Another one is, look at here, normally. So you will see a lot of the adverb, they end with ly, right? So they're easy to find. Another one end with ly, extremely great, right? So they are the ones that I find. So we can say that that's a tick. We have great use of verb tense. It has modality, should, can, and lots of adverbs in this person's writing. The next point we are looking at will be precise and effective words and word group. So we talk about what are precise or and effective words. They are words that specifically relate to the topic we are talking about in this writing. So we have to find those ones. You can post here and try it for yourself. And now we're back. I'm going to highlight those in green. You can also find different highlighter or color pen or pens just to underline or highlight it with Kristen as we go. So after this exercise, hopefully your text will look as colorful as mine. Another one is great habitats. Oh, habitat. Zookeepers, hunters, right? Another one is next paragraph. In the wild. Captivity, over here. That's a very good word. And animal reserves. That's a precise word group. Natural environment. Another word group, isn't it? Can you find more? Maybe you can find more. I will just show you some examples over here. So next one will be evaluative language. What do you know about evaluative language? What kind of language is that? Oh, sorry for the noise. So think about that. So that's often seen in the persuasive writing, not so much so in the narrative writing. So what do I mean by evaluative language? It's a positive or negative language that judges the worth of something. So it includes language to express feelings and opinions and to make a judgment about the aspect of a people, such as their behaviors. So evaluation can be made explicit, for example, through the adjective use. I will give you a sentence. She is a lovely girl. By saying that, you know that this person likes this girl, right? So you know what is the attitude towards this person by using the word lovely, right? Another one. He's an awful man. You know the person who is speaking this sentence don't like that man, isn't it? Awful just tell you everything. So awful is the adjective use. Another one, How wonderful is it? Wonderful. Another adjective express the meaning that the person likes it, right? So that's just some of the example of evaluative language. However, in our story, can you find any use of evaluative language? Actually, you can pause here and think about it. One example will be in the opinion part. I think that it is cruel to keep animals in cages. Cruel is an adjective, isn't it? So cruel just expressed the opinion that the writer disagree with keeping animals in cages, isn't it? So you can also use that kind of technique in your writing. So that will be a tick for this one. Let's come to the next one. Connectives to link arguments and ideas. Can you find any connectives? We also talk about that in, I remember, narrative writing, how we have different connectives. So in this writing, you can see the conjunction words such as, our circle it over here, but. And in the last paragraph, we have overall to try to summarize the idea, right? So this function as a connected to connect the idea of the last paragraph and the previous paragraph. And this but try to contrast with the idea of this paragraph, isn't it? And we also have although it is blah, 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 animals are great gift, right? So these just linked two ideas together by using although. So see, we have some connected use over here to link ideas. So that would be a S. Highly persuasive ideas. Then we will need to look at analyze the ideas in the paragraph. Is it highly persuasive? Let's look at different arguments. So we have two arguments here, right? This is one and this is another one. Do you think this idea is persuasive? So this is trying to argue that zoos are good for animals' life. So you can see this person point out some reasoning. Some of the reasoning they have is safe for hunters, great habitat, and they have entertainment toys. I think that's quite logical and quite reasonable. So that can be persuasive. How about this one? This is another argument, isn't it? When you read it, it's also very logical. So we can say the persuasive idea is highly persuasive. Yes, we can tick that box. Another one is effective use of persuasive techniques. Before we look at the text, can you think about what persuasive techniques you know? Maybe there's a 1, 2, or 3, or more than 3. Think as much as you can. What kind of persuasive techniques you know? So actually later on, I'm going to introduce 8 different persuasive techniques. First, let's look at what persuasive technique this person has used in this writing over here. So when you look at the opinion sentence, I think that it is cruel to, so when you see I think, this is one of the persuasive technique called, you know, what do we call that? That's called personal opinion. Yes. That's pretty common, right? I believe you use this sort of technique in your writing very often. And you just gain 1 mark for doing that in your persuasive writing. Another one is we should do all we can. So this is another persuasive technique. Does anyone know what sort of technique is that? We should. So you're asking someone to do something, right? So it's a command, it's a request. So we call that imperative mood. Imperative mood. Write it here. Imperative mood. So this is the second persuasive technique in this writing. So very easy to use, right? Require action at the end, at the very end of the paragraph is very often seen in persuasive writing. So that's the 2 main techniques this person has used. The other one I will say, this person's writing has been very logical. For example, why do I say that? Actually, we covered that when we talk about each arguing paragraphs over here. So we call that logical reasoning. So this person's reasoning is very logical. So that's also a technique we can use. But actually, this technique is not optional. Whenever we are building a paragraph, an arguing paragraph like this, we want you to have the logical reasoning. So that's not optional, right? Another one, did you notice that there is a question? This is a lion in captivity. Is this cruel? So if you actually read through the whole paragraph, you know that it is cruel, isn't it? It's very cruel because lions, they cannot live in the wild. And when they are feeding lions, it's almost like performing a show, isn't it? It's cruel to a lion. So for this kind of question, we call that rhetorical question. What do I mean by rhetorical question? It's a kind of question you don't need to answer, but you already know the answer. Very effective, isn't it? Instead of just writing statements throughout your writing, sometimes you can have rhetorical question. So that's the main persuasive technique has been used in this writing. So we have personal opinion, I think, rhetorical question, and logical reasoning in each of the paragraph, and imperative mood. So you can see this person have used 4 persuasive techniques in its writing. So how many do you think you need to achieve a high mark for persuasive technique? Because you will see that in the actual marking rubric, we do have this column called persuasive devices. That's the same as persuasive techniques. So actually there is a requirement for year 3 student, you are going to write at least 2. So correctly use 2 persuasive devices. And for year 5 student, your goal is higher. So correctly use at least 4 persuasive devices. All right. So please write that down. So it's very different for year 3 and 5. Now we're gonna keep on going for various sentence structures. Can you see various sentence structures in this writing? Actually, all the sentences are correctly used and demonstrate a variety of clause structures and phrases and sentence lengths as well. So it's actually very good for the sentence structure. And next point is correct punctuation. What do you think about this person's punctuation? Does it use correctly? So actually, you can see that there are a lot of apostrophe, isn't it? The lines glories is correct. The lines glory and the today's breakfast apostrophe looking good. So that's like the area students tend to make mistake. The apostrophe. And another one is use the quote marks for special use. For example, the real world, that's also correct. And then use the comma to separate for phrasing. That's also looking good. So actually, there's not so much mistakes over here as I can see. So that one, we can also give it a tick, correct punctuation. Next one is correct spelling of words in different levels. Is there misspelling of words? This person used all simple words, most common words correctly. And what I want to ask, can you find any difficult or challenging words in this writing? You can post here and try for yourself. So once you are back, I'm going to use another color. Let me see what other color do I have. Let's use pink instead. So first, difficult words, right? So glorious, definitely one. Delicious, 3-syllable words. Preparing is also one. Pray. I wonder, can you spell pray correctly? Excited. Can you see the word excited? Excited, I remember it's here. Yes, and applause. And a double P, isn't it? It's sometimes very confusing. Audience. It's also a difficult word. Captivity, very good use. Do you know that word before reading this? And would you think about using that word when you're writing this topic? So that's something we can learn. Millions. Another difficult words. And what do we have here? Nope, looking good. Habitat. I remember this word habitat over here. Already highlight that. And quality, healthy. It's also one. Is there any words you think they might not be difficult words, but actually I said they are? So don't be worried so much thinking about, oh, I can't write difficult words. Actually, there are so many words that are considered as difficult words. Experiencing, also one. Argue, it's also a difficult word. And then promote. Promotes teaching animals. Normally, it's also one. I'm not going to highlight that because on my screen, you can highlight over there if you want. Naturally, I remember this. Naturally, can't find it. Anyway, here. Just give you some example of what are the difficult words. And I believe you can write this much in your writing as well. However, there are some incorrect spelling, but when the teacher who typed this one in the document, it's actually changed it into the correct form, so we can't see it right now. Challenging words. Environment is also considered as challenging words. Yeah, over here, just let you know. So this person has 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 15 challenging and difficult words. So that's already a high marks, right? So for year 3 students, try to achieve 10, and for year 5 students, try to achieve 15. 4 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have already got 5 paragraphs. So definitely tick for that one. And last but not least, number of words. There we have 277. Definitely meets the requirement of 250 for year 5. Yep. And for year 3, 150. That's will be enough. Now, let's look at the rubric we're going to be marked on in the actual exam. So there are several areas we need to look on. So first, of course, audience. No matter what kind of genre you're writing, always bear in mind your audience. Yeah, we always write with a purpose. There's no writing that is without purpose. For persuasive writing, what is our purpose? Yes, our purpose is to persuade, right? To try to let audience believe in your opinion. So after finish reading, they are going to say, oh, I really agree with it. I really think that's true, right? So that's an indication of you persuading someone. So your writing is going to show the marker your capacity to orientate, engage, and persuade the audience. Yeah. And the next one is text structure. Do you have a clear text structure? That means, do you have introduction, body, and conclusion? The 3 main parts we talk about. And it asks you to organize that in a corporate and effective text structure. So by that, I don't know how many of you have heard about the teal structure when it comes to persuasive writing. So teal structure is very effective when you are trying to construct a paragraph in persuasive writing. So TEAL actually is the acronym for TEEL, and I will show you what each of the letters stand for. So this is it. So TEAL, T stands for topic sentence, and E is explain. Another E for evidence, L for link. So we all know what is topic sentence, right? When we talk about the structure, I cover what it is in the sample text. So explanation, what does it do? It's to explain the topic sentence. What do you mean by that topic sentence? What do you mean by that argument you're talking about? You try to use other words to further explain it. And then we have the evidence. So you agree with this. So what is your evidence? Why you say that? Give us some examples, some facts, some maybe data, and yeah, just something to support your topic sentence, right? So make it more persuasive. However, don't forget, we also need a link. What does it mean? So to build a very complete paragraph, you have to link back to your topic sentence, to link back to your arguments. You can say, hence, therefore, I think it is cruel to keep animals in cages. Or what was your argument for the first one? It says, let me see. What was the first one? Our sample, it says animals in zoos actually have a pretty good life. You can say, hence, animals can live better in zoos. Just say it in another way, right? So link back to your topic sentence, just like that. Once you get idea, I believe it's easier for you to write a very logical and reasonable argument with the TEAL structure. Just bear that in mind. All right. That will be the text structure. And then come to the ideas. Ideas have to be relevant, and you have to elaborate your ideas for the persuasive argument, of course, right? So I believe if you use a tier structure, you will meet that goal just real quick, right? You won't off the track by following the tier structure because that is very logical, organized in that way. Next one is persuasive devices. We mentioned that before, in the text, there are many that person has to use in that argument. And I also want to introduce you more about other persuasive devices you can use in your own writing, just real quick. So let me just. All right, so I said before there are 8 of them, isn't it? So the first one is authoritative statement. Authoritative statement, like the statement that are organized or accepted as being true or reliable, like telling about facts, right? So you can say, dogs love human attention. This is just one example of what authority statement is. Another one is direct address the reader. So you are using you, we, or us to draw readers to stand on writer's position. You can say, we need to stop this action, right? We need them to supply us some food. We need to stop pollution. Another one is imperative mood. We talk about that. Don't let it happen again. So you are express direct request or command. Another one is personal opinion. For example, as far as I am thinking, I strongly believe that from my perspective, yeah, I think rhetorical question. Oh, sorry, rhetorical. So those are the questions. You don't need to answer it. It's just prompt the reader to think about issue. So that's pretty effective. Next one is modality. So use modal verbs such as can, should, must, may, and also not limited to those words, also the expression of the probability and the negation of this. It gives the reader information of the degree of obligation or certainty involved. For example, we should not keep animals in cages. We must quit doing this. Yeah, so another word is repetition. So maybe you repeat the same words or phrases over and over again, but we usually have a rule of 3. Next one, which is so in our sample text, we have 4, isn't it? The logical reasoning is also 1. So that's the last one. Logical reasoning. Okay. So there we go. We have 8 of them. Now let's come back to this one. Vocabulary use a range of precision and contextually appropriate language. We talk about the precise words and word group. That's what we are talking about. Cohesion. Do you have connectives to linking your ideas between sentences and paragraph? You can also use referring words like eat, she, he, they. They're referring words. Substitution and word association means when you think about this topic, what are the words associated with this topic? Paragraph. Of course, if you follow the structure, if you follow a very good persuasive writing, the introduction, body, and conclusion, you will write it in paragraphs, right? Sentence structure, free of grammarly mistakes, and have various sentence structure, punctuation use, and the spelling. Also talk about you need 10 to 15 difficult or challenging words in order to get full marks for that. So let's look at another student written example to see how this person achieve this checklist, or how did she fail to achieve this checklist. So this student written one might be even harder to recompare with the last one we have a look. So I will read it quickly for you. So food, water, and other necessary supplies are what money should be spent on. Many people believe that too much money is being spent on useless toys and games. Toys and games are a good entertainment for kids and are able to keep them occupied. They are fun for the children using them, and certain games can improve on the child's exercise rate, keeping them active. Many toys are used for fun and enjoyment, that there are many that can help the child, whether it's learning something new and useful, keeping the child aware, or developing their brains education-wise. As many good things come out of having toys and playing games, there are negatives, and many people are agreeing that there is too much money being spent. Thousands of dollars are being spent regularly on toys and games, when it could be going to better use. Important supplies and necessities are useful things that parents or adults should be spending money on. Of course, children are going to need toys and games, but I believe they should have a limited amount, as there are more important things. Having games like PlayStation's computer games and Nintendo DS games can make the child addicted to playing the game and will have less time to keep active. Too much electronic games are not healthy for children's brain and forces them to become lazy. I believe that kids should limit their needs for games and toys because the money spent can be used for more important use. It is unhealthy and can prevent them from doing their activities. All right, that's the full story. Let's look at the structure. So does it have introduction, the state writer's main opinion? Now we need to look at the introduction. Just bear with me. Right, here we go. The introduction is, of course, the first paragraph is obviously because the following paragraph, it seems that it's listing the arguments. So it says, many people believe that too much money is being spent on useless toys and games. But what is your opinion? That's what many people believe, right? Then what do you believe, right? It seems that there's no opinion in the first paragraph, isn't it? Oops. So that will become an issue. Let's look at, so the first one is across a series of argument. Do we have a series argument in the following paragraphs? Actually, we do, isn't it? So in the second paragraph, you can see the argument of toys and games are good entertainment for kids and are able to keep them occupied. So it actually says toys and games are good. They're good for kids. How about this paragraph? What is the opinion? There are negatives, and many people are agreeing that there is too much money being spent. So some people disagree with spending too much money on toys and games. That's the second argument, isn't it? And then we come to this paragraph. And it said these games make children addict to playing the games and has less time to keep active. So too much games will have problem for children to keep active. That's another opinion, isn't it? So that will be a tick for this one. We do have series of arguments. A separate paragraph for each argument, yes, it is separate. A clear topic sentence, yes. Just what I read before were topic sentences in each paragraph. It's at the very beginning, easy to find. Conclusion, do we have a clear conclusion? I think we do. So this conclusion, if really clearly, is actually summarize each one of the argument, which is a restate the opinion. So good. Correct verb tense, yes, it's all in present tense. Modal verbs and adverbs. Can you find any modal verbs first? And adverbs use. So for modal verbs, you can find one in the first paragraph over here. Should. And in the last paragraph, I think somewhere here, should. So we have modal verb. How about adverb? As you can see, there are not many adverbs in this writing. The only one I can find is regularly. Not very much, right? So at least we have some. That's a tick, and it's correctly used. Do we have precise and effective words? You can pause there and try to find some yourself and check with me later. And for precise words, what I find are, for example, environment. That's the one we talked about before. I'm not going to highlight it. You can find it as I talk, or you can just listen. Occupied, active, we also mentioned that. Negatives, right, negatives. And we also have necessitives over here. So they are all precise words. For other precise word groups, we have necessary supplies, exercise rate, developing their brains education-wise, limited amount. Right, there are just some examples for you to think about. So do we have another one is evaluative language, right? So do we have a sentence talking about opinions toward the argument? There is one at the very end. I believe that kids should limit their needs on games. So by use word limit, should limit, you know that the writer is against spending too much money, isn't it? So evaluative language, sometimes you use adjectives, sometimes you can also use verbs in that case, and connectives to link arguments and ideas. For example, as means things, because many good things coming out. So that's a good use of as. I think you can find more example. That's the obviously one I find at the beginning of the sentence. Another one, highly persuasive ideas. If you read this person's paragraph, it has been constructed very well in a logical order when it constructs each one of the, try to support its argument. So yes, persuasive ideas and persuasive devices. What do you think the persuasive devices has been used here? Think about that for a while. And the one I find first is the authority statement. Did you find where is it? So for this one, you can find in the first argument. I will use a different color pen. How about pink? But there are many that can help the children. So their game can help children, but there are negatives. Right. So there are good ones, but there are negatives as well. So it's the example of using authority statement. So I'm not going to write it. You can write it over here in the blank space. Also, it used tricolons. So what is tricolon? Example, for example, whether it's learning something new and useful, keeping the child aware, or developing their brains. So you can see 3 verbs with ing form. So we call that tricolon. Right. So another one is what I talk about, the repetition. Example here is there's too much money being spent, thousands of dollars. It's repeating about money, right? So that's the repetition. So we talk about, we have rules of 3, but sometimes 2 is fine. All right. So they are the use of persuasive techniques or devices. And the next one we have to look at is sentence structures. Yes, and the sentence when you read it is not really boring, right? Correct punctuation. It has a lot of apostrophe use over here as well. And let me see, is there any punctuation mistakes? All the sentences correct use. So not so much mistakes here. However, there's only one missing, the apostrophe. I remember. Can't really see now. It's hiding in the text. Maybe you can find it. It's children's. Sorry, it's child's. Another one, next one we're gonna look at is the spelling of words in different levels. So you can pause there and have a go yourself. What words you think are difficult words? Now you can come back and this person correctly spelling all the words, all the simple common words, and it has at least 10 difficult words. So those difficult words are supplies, environment, enjoyment, occupied, certain, weather, education, developing, computer, unhealthy, negatives, limited, electronic, activities. So challenging words are necessary. Necessities, these are challenging words. All right, now let's come to paragraphs. How many paragraphs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, more than 4 paragraphs. Tick. Number of words. You can calculate, but by just looking at this, it's definitely more than 250 words. So definitely a pass for year 5 student and year 3 student. You don't need to so much. So we have covered this example. Let's look at this question again. So if you are in the real exam and you were given this question, what should you look at? Of course, the title, right? And the hints for you, right? Those questions are the hints. And these are the structure you're gonna stick to. And this is when you are editing your work, remember to have a look at that. Also, what I want to point out is the pictures right over there. So when you really first think about this question, animals in cages, how can animals be in cages? Maybe it's, you keep them as a pet, like this pair of parrots. Or you keep them on a farm. That's how you will keep those animals, right? And more maybe animals being keeping in zoo. That's what's gonna happen. That's the picture showing that, right? So there are different situations just by looking those images. So those images are very powerful if you don't have any ideas in the exam. So don't forget to pay attention to those little details. And now I'm going to talk about these templates. The persuasive template, as you can see, is kind of different from our narrative template, although we also have introduction and conclusion and the body part, of course. But in the introduction part, you're gonna stay out your position, right? It's very clear over there. I don't need to look that in your body part here and there. It has to be very crystal clear for your marker to see. It's over there. You're not going to play hide and seek. And then after that is your body parts. As you can see, we have provided with you with 3 arguments. So ideally, we love to think about you can come up with 3 different arguments. But as you can see previously, we have one example who only wrote 2 arguments. That's also fine, all right? So don't go like only 1 argument. That's really not convincing, isn't it? So at least 2, 3 is perfect. And after you write your, let's talk about the tier structure here, right? So this is one of your paragraph from argument 1, for example. So after you write your argument 1, stay out your why. This is your opinion. And you remember the tier structure E stands for explain, isn't it? You're going to explain your argument. So what do you mean by that? So after you explain, you are going to support your argument, isn't it? How do you support? By giving us your reasons, or you can give us some facts, or you can, if you have read enough, you maybe can pull up some evidence. For example, from famous person's quote, or something you can find, you read on the news or internet. That could be your evidence over here. So 3 boxes, you can have 3 different reasons or facts or evidence, or mix of them 3. Even if it's 1, that's totally fine. All right. And don't forget, after you have your supporting part, we also need link to link back to this argument at the very beginning. Yeah. So do the same for the following argument 2 and 3, if you really have 3. And in the conclusion part, what we do is to restate your position, right? Don't think, oh, this is too much. I talk about it again and again. It is very important. So just to summarize, or you can think about to summarize your argument 1, 2, and 3 over here. Yeah. So that's the structure of our persuasive writing. And for example, for this topic, keeping animals in cages is cool. If you think, yes, I want to say that it is cool. I want to support this idea over here. But it's so hard for me to come up with 3 arguments supporting keeping them is cool. Like I can say keeping them cool because they lost freedom and it's not good for their health, but I just can't think about the third one. How can I come up with the third one? And I don't think 2 is enough for my workout. Then what can you do? So don't be worried. So for the third one, you can go like keeping animals in cages, not cool. Why we can do that? Because it just shows that you can think from both sides for the reader. You can think very thoroughly. You have a critical thinking. So that's a good case of showing us you can think from both sides. So you can think about why it's a good thing to keep them in cages. And in conclusion, you can still support your idea like keeping animals in cages cool, right? It doesn't make your argument sounds weird or sounds less convincing. It just shows us you can think very well the whole picture on both sides, right? So you can either put the other side at the beginning or at the end, like the structure AAB or BAA is both fine, right? Either way you like, both fine. So you can choose the way you like to construct your argument. So it really depends on you. But be aware that year 3, 155, and year 5, 200, year 3, 150, and year 5, 250 words each, right? So this is your template for you to plan, and you're gonna write your writing over here. If it's, I think for most of the people, especially for year 5 might not be enough space if you are what your handwriting like is a little bit big in size, then you can find another piece of paper to write it. It's a really good exercise for you to practice whether you can really think thoroughly within time constraint, right? I really recommend you have a try, and I will have a look for a good look for your writing and provide you with as much as feedback as I can. So thank you for listening so far for our last lesson, and hope that is helpful for your next week's NAPLAN writing exam. Don't be afraid for that exam and just do your best. I believe all you can do your best in the exam. So all the best to you and good luck to your exam. See you. Bye.